Amendment to the amendment.
Without objection, the amendment will be considered as read. The gentlelady is recognized to explain the amendment.
Mr. Chairman, my amendment addresses a current urgent situation of the Trump administration ignoring judges' orders, ignoring the provision of due process, and wrongfully deporting people to other countries despite judges' orders. My amendment simply states that this bill will not go into effect until the Trump administration is able to return all the people who it admits it has deported in error. It is a stain on our country that this list of people wrongfully deported continues to grow. And I will just say that this amendment, I'm going to give you a number of examples, but it is especially important now as it appears that once again the Trump administration has openly defied a court order, has just unlawfully removed immigrants to South Sudan, and the administration will continue breaking the law and wrongfully deporting people until they're finally held accountable. So I hope we can do that today in a bipartisan way. I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record an article from CNN dated May 20th. Federal judge says Trump administration must maintain custody of migrants allegedly sent to South Sudan. This just
Without objection, so ordered.
So we all know about Kilmar Abrego Garcia. This is a father, a husband to an American citizen who had what is called withholding of removal. This is a legal immigration status that specifically blocked him from being removed to El Salvador. And he won that status during the first Trump administration in 2019 by proving that he posed absolutely no threat to public safety and that he had a well-founded fear of persecution from gangs back in El Salvador. The first Trump administration never appealed that decision. Now, the Trump administration has violated the court decision, kidnapped him in front of his 5-year-old son, and shipped him off to El Salvador, the one place in the world that they were legally barred from sending him. They sent him to be locked up in a foreign gulag with the very gang members that he had just escaped, and they are using our taxpayer dollars, all of our money, to pay for him to be imprisoned over there. Now, the administration didn't deny that they deported him in error. They admitted that they deported him in error, and in a normal world, they would have tried to bring him back. And if they really thought he was a danger to the community, they should have gone through the legal process of presenting that information to a court to try to strip him of his legal protections. But that's not at all what they did. They doubled down. They insisted without any new evidence that he was an MS-13 gang member. They went as far as to hold up a photoshopped picture of his tattoos. This is desperation. When you don't have real evidence, you Photoshop things. Meanwhile, every single court that has looked at this case, including the Supreme Court, found that the administration was in the wrong, and the Supreme Court ruled unanimously, 9-0, that the administration needed to facilitate the return of Mr. Abrego Garcia. There are at least 2 other cases similarly. Daniel Lozano Camargo, who is a Venezuelan man, was deported to El Salvador in March, despite a court-approved settlement requiring the administration to adjudicate his asylum claim first. And again, the Trump-appointed judge ordered that the administration facilitate Mr. Lozano Camargo's return, and the Trump administration has not done so. A Guatemalan man sued the Trump administration in March for deporting him to Mexico despite a fear of persecution. And immigration officials initially said that the man told him themselves that he was not afraid to be sent there. But in a court filing on Friday, the administration acknowledged that their claim was based on erroneous information. So these are just the beginnings of these wrongful deportations. And I think every US citizen out there wants the Trump administration, every person in this country wants the Trump administration to abide by the courts and by judges' decisions, and they are willfully defying that and deporting people, including people who have legal status. This is not about going after the worst of the worst that the bills keep bringing up over and over again. This has nothing to do with the campaign promises that Trump made. This is about deporting wrongfully people, sending them to other countries, and refusing to obey even even the Supreme Court. And I will tell you, I don't think Americans want that. I don't think they believe that that is what should happen. And I would like for the other side to vote on this amendment that says nothing in this bill goes into effect until you return those wrongfully deported people and you obey the Supreme Court and judges across this country, including those appointed by Donald Trump, in their rulings to return these people to the United States. I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. The gentleman from...
Mr. Chairman, I move...
Hang on one second.
Chairman, notwithstanding that this is overly broad and outside the scope of this bill, I'll withdraw my reserve.
Point of order is withdrawn. The gentleman from North Carolina is recognized.
Move to strike the last word, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman is recognized.
Well, just a few points of correction and clarification in regards to the statement stating that Mr. Kilmar Garcia was not a threat to public safety. I have to strongly disagree. Having prosecuted organized criminals for
would the
almost a
gentleman
decade.
yield?
No, ma'am. After over a decade, the evidence is overwhelming, both officially on the
Why
record.
don't you present it in
I'm
court?
speaking, ma'am.
Time belongs to the gentleman from North Carolina.
The evidence is overwhelming that he was engaged in nefarious conduct, that he was part of terrorist organizations, and he was working actively to further his criminal objectives here on American soil. His domestic partner or wife, whichever one she is, she took out paperwork with a court stating that he was abusive to her. He was stopped in Tennessee with, I believe, 8 women in a van, trafficking them around the country. This is not the person that we need to be taking up our arms for. But in regards to the gentlelady's concerns about due process, this bill protects due process. If someone is here illegally and they do not get convicted of a felony, it does not trigger this law. For someone to be convicted of a felony, they have to be charged with probable cause by a grand jury. They have to be arrested or otherwise apprehended. They have to be given counsel at your expense. They enter into a plea negotiation or a jury trial where they either admit to criminal conduct under oath or they're convicted by a jury of their peers. Once that happens, this law is triggered. Due process is protected. If you are convicted of felonious conduct in the United States and you are here illegally, these penalties come into play. If you're here illegally and you do not commit any crime, this law does not touch you. It targets the worst of the worst. It targets those who come back here illegally time and again to prey upon my children, my neighborhoods, people in your district, ma'am, and the time for allowing that is over. This bill gives law enforcement the tools to attack the committed criminals from around the world who come here illegally. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Would the gentleman yield just for one quick question on that point?
Gentleman yields.
Wait, am I reading the statute wrongly to say that a person could be put in a prison for a longer period for no other crime other than reentry?
Well, there's two answers to that. First, it elevates the sentence from 0 to 2 years to 0 to 10. In 2 years, it can take 24 months to resolve a case in 2 years, 24 months. And if it takes 21 months to resolve a case, there's only 3 months of active time that you can bestow. So it elevates it to 10 years. But secondly, the mandatory time only is initiated if someone has been convicted of a felony here in the United States and then returns illegally. Does that make sense?
But but the initial entry itself is a felony, right? So I guess what I'm getting at is you don't need to have murdered somebody or assaulted somebody or robbed somebody. Your crime could just have been an extra reentry.
Illegal reentry with a felony conviction.
Yeah.
And again, I will state for the record, there is nothing that compels prosecutors to have to charge that. But if the felony is sufficiently serious, if they're sufficiently dangerous, et cetera, and they come back illegally, that hammer exists to be used.
Would you entertain one other question, Mr. Ryan?
Absolutely.
But I guess this was back more on Ms. Jayapal's point. But this relating to the Abrego Garcia case and her amendment, which obviously is a kind of a preface to your bill. She's saying, before we go down this road, let's see that we're complying with the court orders that exist now for the return of people who've been unlawfully deported in an administrative error, right? And then the answer to that was, this is a terrible guy, he's MS-13, he's a terrorist and so on. He's not been charged with any of that, and he hasn't been convicted of any of that. And so are you saying the Supreme Court got it wrong in saying that there should be, facilitation of his return to the country, and that these people should be returned to the country, and they can be charged with anything at that point. I mean, maybe they're the worst person in the world, maybe they're not, but that's what due process is all about.
I'm not talking about taking a position on the Supreme Court's opinion. I'm not taking a position on the executive branch's position. I trust that they have stated repeatedly they are working to effectuate the court's order. But in regards to this particular amendment, I think it's irrelevant to the bill. This bill targets those who are around the world that want to come here to profit through crime. It's obviously a need. We look at the effects all around the country, and elevating the penalties, elevating the focus on illegal re-entry, that's the focus. And again, there is no compulsion to charge mandatory minimums. Those are only reserved. It's just one added layer of ability that law enforcement will have to target this class. Thank you.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from California is next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My friend from North Carolina, I think we're all in agreement here. Nobody wants violent criminals in our communities. With or without documents, citizens or not, we don't want those individuals in our communities. Your focus on reentry, that's an interesting one. You want to reduce undocumented entries into this country. I think you have it a little bit off target, because if you really want to go after undocumented workers, you need to go after the employers, the people that provide them with jobs. Go after the small businesses, the farmers, the dairies, the home builders, the manufacturers. In California, manufacturing is big. 70% of those workers are undocumented. The employer is the key. People come back to this country to work, and that's who you want to keep. So if you want to keep them out, just tell the employers don't hire people. Now,
Will the gentleman yield?
not yet. I will, but let me finish here. This is a Wall Street Journal article from 2 days ago. I'm going to read it to you. It says, President Trump's mass deportation push has caused widespread fear among immigrants. What it has not done is stop them from showing up to work. As of April, there were 32 million foreign workers. 32 million foreign workers in the U.S., up 4.4% from January of last year. So they're still being hired. So here's the situation, sir. Make it illegal, penalize employers, triple down on the penalties, time in jail. You're going to give employers a choice. You follow the law, fire undocumented workers, and you go out of business. Or you ignore the law, keep your undocumented workers, and stay in business. That's a choice you're going to have the employers decide on. I'm going to mention a couple of more articles. This one is from the National Milk Producers Federation. 51% of the workers in the dairy business are immigrants. Not enough H-2A visas. Well, those are temporary workers. They need year-round workers. Wisconsin Examiner. Nowhere would mass deportations have a bigger impact than on Wisconsin's dairy farms, where about 70% of the workforce is made up of immigrants from Mexico and Central America. Got one more article for you. Nebraska Public Media. Dairy farms are vulnerable to Trump's mass deportations. The industry hopes to get a pass. So we're trying to slow down undocumented workers. The problem is not penalizing workers or employers. We got to have immigration reform. Give an opportunity for an employer to hire a worker legally. These workers from the U.S. are children. We are not going to work in farms, dairies, or manufacturing plants. So, this is essentially a charade. You're telling people that are starving, don't come to the U.S. You're telling employers that need the workers, don't hire them. The Wall Street Journal tells you clearly, since January, employment of undocumented in this country is going up. So let's figure out immigration reform. And sir, I would welcome the opportunity to work with you to come up with a solution to this problem. It's not about undocumented. It's not about employers. It's about the American economy and keeping it growing and keeping us as the greatest economy in the world. I got 38 seconds. I'll yield to you.
Thank you for the clarification, sir. And just a point of further discussion, I will say I'm not going after the dairy worker. I'm not going after the construction worker. This bill targets the individual who comes back into the country.
If I may, a lot of those come back as reentries.
With a felony. If the dairy worker does not get convicted of a felony, he is not under this law.
If he comes in again to the U.S.?
Illegally.
Reentry?
Illegally. If you get deported.
Yes,
if
these
you get,
are illegal work.
If you get deported, don't come back illegally. Come back legally.
They will come back because a job is there for them. And again, more than happy.
Again, this bill targets convicted felons who want to come back into the country a second, third,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to submit these articles for the
Without
record, sir.
objection, they'll be entered into the record. I'll claim time, and I'll yield to the gentleman from North Carolina. But just let me say, I believe the focus of the gentleman's legislation, or Ms. Spice's legislation that Mr. Knott has worked so hard on, is really what he said in his opening statement. It's the guy who's part of the cartel, part of the terrorist organization, who keeps coming back because he's making money from the cartel, giving drugs that have killed thousands of Americans. And if he does get caught, goes through the process, felony conviction, they send him back, you come back again, oh, the judge is going to be able to put you away for a lot longer time. Because we want to stop that guy who's bringing the fentanyl. That's the focus, not on people who have a visa who are here working. It's on that individual. And I would yield to the gentleman from North Carolina.
That's exactly right, Mr. Chairman. And in regards to how this bill would work, again, from what I saw in my firsthand experience, there are people who will come back repeatedly to inflict harm on this country through crime. And this bill will make it more efficient to identify, prosecute, and remove those individuals from circulation, from our society. Again, if you are here illegally and you do not get convicted of a crime and you do not re-enter the country illegally, this bill does not touch you. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Gentlelady from Texas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I just want to kind of distill down what my colleague, Ms. Jayapal, was talking about, and I am definitely going to yield some time to her. I think our concern is that because somebody says something, that doesn't make it evidence. And right now, what we have is people saying, well, we have evidence. As attorneys, we know that that evidence has to be tested in court, and that is what due process really looks like. It's not just saying that somebody is MS-13. It is a matter of a judge determining whether or not that evidence would be admissible and having the ability to look at the credibility of the witness offering that evidence, such as when we're talking about Kilmar. If we look at that, it says I've got a couple of articles. There's an article that says government's case against Abrego Garcia is based on PG County cop who was on the SA's do not call list because he was not a credible witness. The only person that said that he was MS-13 is a cop that ended up being, I don't think he got fired, but he definitely, never mind. He did get fired. So we're going to say that we're going to base our entire case, so to speak. This is why we have courts. This is why we are talking about due process, because that's what it looks like. It looks like more than somebody. Listen, I can't tell you how many lies are made up by MAGA followers about me. I done been all kinds of things, and none of it is true just because they put it out there on social media. That is the problem that we're having right now in this country, is that it seems like nobody cares about the truth anymore. And what we're trying to do is say we have a fact finding, and let me be clear. I am not saying that the criminal justice system or any other justice system has ever always been perfect. I am not trying to say that. But we do have a system And that system is supposed to be based upon the Constitution. And right now, like literally due process comes from the Constitution. This should be the highest protections that one can have in the land. And right now, it seems like y'all don't care about the Constitution unless it's the Second Amendment. And that's misinterpreted as well, okay? There's other amendments to the Constitution. And we don't get to just change it because our fearless leader says that he doesn't like certain parts of the Constitution. We have a process, again, to get amendments, right? There are people that don't like the fact that there was an amendment so that women could vote. And guess what? We ended up with something like the SAVE Act because we don't want women to vote. Like, literally, but I'm getting off track, so I'm gonna go back because I know that Ms. Jayapal wanted some time. So I will yield my time to the gentle lady from Washington.
Thank you so much, Representative Crockett. Look, I want to go back to the amendment, which says nothing in this bill can be enacted until we follow the courts and return these wrongfully deported people to the United States. And I would thank the sponsor of the bill for at least ensuring that there's a conviction in this bill. A lot of the bills around immigration that have been brought up to the floor of the House do not require a conviction. And so I appreciate that you put a conviction in.
Not too late to co-sponsor.
I believe that that is an important threshold that should be, and I hope that maybe you voted against all those bills. I'm going to go back and check. I don't think so, but maybe you voted against all those bills that didn't have a conviction, because we voted on a lot of them, and they don't have convictions. So I appreciate that you put in a conviction here. Here's the problem. I think you believe in due process. You said you have experience arguing in courts. I assume that you respect court decisions, but I have not heard a single person on your side speak out and say that the administration must return Kilmar Abrego Garcia to this country when the President of the United States said he had the power to do that. And when you say to me, oh, there's all this information on Mr. Abrego Garcia, and he's this and he's that, I guess I'm surprised at that, because if you really believe in due process in the court system, and I believe you do, I'm going to give you that benefit of the doubt, then why not present that information in court? The Trump administration has refused to present information in court. They have, and the judges, when they've looked at the things that are there, they're saying, nope, not good enough, doesn't meet the standard. So why don't you all issue a statement from the Judiciary Committee Republicans, happy to co-sponsor it with you if you'd like, that says that you believe that the Trump administration should follow the ruling of the Supreme Court of the United States and any judge that rules, including those judges who were appointed by Donald Trump, to return these wrongfully deported individuals to the United States, because it is undermining everything that you've done in your career, everything that we stand for on this committee, to not speak out about it and to act like somehow this is okay. I think whatever you believe about Mr. Abrego Garcia, you should be able to say that he should have due process and that the Trump administration should follow the Supreme Court. So if you, and I think that this is relevant to this bill, and so I hope that we can do that together. I doubt it, but I hope we can do it together.
More than expired.
And Mr. Chairman, I have